A tragic day for police officers in Massachusetts. A Worcester officer dying while trying to rescue 3 teens who were struggling to stay above water at a pond. 38-year-old Emmanuel Familia was pulled from the pond by divers from the Worcester Fire Department. One of the teens he tried to save, a 14-year-old boy, also drowned. Familia responded to the scene after onlookers spotted the teens in the water. 5 officers hurried to the scene. Familia was among them.
Today our hearts are heavy as we mourn the death of Worcester police officer Emmanuel Familia and the young person he tried to rescue. Officer Familia died tragically in the line of duty doing what he was trained to do, to serve and protect the residents of our city. Officer Familia, without regard for his own safety, attempted to rescue a young drowning victim at Worcester's Green Hill Park. This is the type of person that Manny was, someone who laid down his life for someone else's child.
Officer Familia was a 5-year veteran of the force. Tonight, that officer leaves behind a wife and 2 children. Well,